When a quiet suburban neighborhood suddenly feels unsafe, who would have imagined it all started with a simple backyard pool? One neighbor's obsession would push boundaries, test courage, and bring a single woman face to face with fear she never thought possible. Samantha Ellis moved to the peaceful streets of Brookside Heights for one reason: peace. After years of city chaos, she wanted a home where she could relax, breathe, and finally enjoy her own space. Her modest house was her sanctuary, complete with a sparkling backyard pool that had been her dream since childhood. But that dream came with an unexpected visitor. A neighbor who seemed friendly at first started to linger too close, smile a little too often, and ask questions that made her skin crawl. It wasn't long before Samantha realized that her safe haven was under threat. Something had changed, and the danger was closer than she ever imagined. Samantha Ellis had always been independent. Her friends joked that she was tougher than most men they knew, the type of woman who could handle anything the world threw at her. But nothing could have prepared her for the creepiness that would invade her own backyard. It began subtly. At first it was Mr. Halverson next door, offering small talk over the fence. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" he would say, smiling just a little too wide. Samantha would nod politely, keeping her answers short, assuming everyone had quirks. But the small talk quickly escalated. He began asking why she didn't host pool parties, why she never invited anyone over, and eventually, why she was alone so often. It felt invasive, but Samantha tried to shrug it off, hoping she was overreacting. Then came the requests. First, casual, almost innocent, "Mind if I borrow a float for the weekend?" Samantha politely declined. The next time, he asked if he could just dip his feet in the pool while she worked in her garden. Again, she said no, though her gut was already screaming. But the tipping point came one hot summer evening. Samantha had just finished a long day at her job as a graphic designer. She stepped into her backyard, poured a glass of iced tea, and went to relax by the pool. Almost immediately she saw him there, leaning against the fence, watching her with an intensity that made her blood run cold. "Beautiful pool," he said casually, though his eyes didn't leave her. "You know, I've always wanted a private swim. Why not let me in just once?" Samantha froze, unsure whether to laugh nervously or call the police. She took a slow step back. "No," she said firmly, "absolutely not." He shrugged, as if this was a minor inconvenience. "Come on, it's just a little swim. No one will know." The fear hit her like ice. This wasn't just odd behavior, this was obsession. And suddenly, her sanctuary, the very place she had worked so hard to create, felt like a trap. Over the next few days, Mr. Halverson's presence grew bolder. He would walk past her house, linger in his yard while making it obvious he was watching her, and even leave small, strange gifts by her gate. A towel, a pool toy, a bottle of sunscreen, all perfectly innocent on the surface, but loaded with a threatening undertone. Samantha confided in her closest friend, Maria. "I can't just ignore this," she whispered one night over the phone. "It's escalating, and I feel like he's watching my every move. I don't feel safe anymore." Maria didn't hesitate. "You need proof, Sam. Photos, videos, anything. This isn't just a neighborly quirk anymore. This is harassment." Samantha agreed, though the thought of confronting him directly filled her with dread. She felt trapped in her own home. She realized, maybe for the first time, how vulnerable being a single woman could be. Her pool, once a symbol of freedom and joy, had become a place of fear and uncertainty. It was during a quiet Saturday morning that the real confrontation happened. Samantha was trimming her small rose garden when Mr. Halverson strolled over to the fence with that same unsettling smile. "You know, I was thinking, we could share the pool, just once. You'd barely notice," he said, leaning closer than before. Samantha's heart pounded. Every instinct screamed danger. "No," she said again, firmer this time. "I've said no, and that's final." His smile didn't falter. If anything, it widened. "We'll see about that," he murmured, turning and walking away. But Samantha knew it wasn't over. She felt the cold realization settle in her chest. Her nightmare was just beginning. Rhetorical question: how far would someone go when they refused to respect boundaries? But what happened next left Samantha terrified and unsure if she could ever feel safe in her own home. Samantha knew she had to take action. Ignoring Mr. Halverson's behavior had only made it worse, and the sense of dread in her own home was growing unbearable. She decided to install a small security camera, not the intrusive kind, just enough to record anything unusual near the backyard. What she captured over the next few days would make her stomach churn. Early one morning, Samantha reviewed the footage. Her neighbor was lurking by her pool again, this time peering over the fence as if he belonged there. He left a folded note tucked into the corner of her garden chair. Reading it, her hands trembled. "You can't hide forever. We'll enjoy the pool together, whether you like it or not." The words were carefully polite, but the meaning was clear. This was no longer friendly. This was threatening. She showed the evidence to Maria, who was horrified. "This is harassment, Sam. You have to go to the police. You have proof now. They can't ignore this." Samantha nodded, though a part of her was terrified of escalating the situation. What if he found out? What if it got worse? But deep down, she knew she couldn't let fear control her life. The next encounter happened during a neighborhood barbecue. Samantha thought she could escape him in public, that his obsession would be less obvious with other people around. But there he was, smiling at her from across the lawn, a cooler in hand, pretending it was coincidence. He started asking neighbors if they'd ever noticed her pool looking lonely. Every word was calculated, meant to unsettle her. The situation escalated quickly. Samantha began documenting everything. She kept a journal of encounters, photographs of the gifts left at her gate, and detailed notes about each uncomfortable conversation. Her anxiety grew alongside the evidence, but she was determined not to let fear paralyze her. Finally, she captured the moment that would change everything. One evening, she heard strange noises near the pool. The camera showed Mr. Halverson attempting to climb over the fence. Samantha's hands shook as she dialed 911. The police arrived just in time to stop him. They confiscated the note, reviewed the video, and assured Samantha they would take her case seriously. Even with the authorities involved, Samantha felt an unease she couldn't shake. Every creak of the fence, every shadow that fell across her backyard, reminded her of the nightmare she was living. And yet, something inside her refused to let this situation define her. She knew she needed more than just police reports. She needed justice, and maybe even closure. The tension in her neighborhood reached a tipping point. Friends advised her to move, but Samantha refused. Her home was her sanctuary, and she wasn't going to surrender it to fear. She reached out to her attorney and prepared for what was coming next. A court hearing that could confront the harassment head-on, face-to-face with the man who had made her life miserable. Rhetorical question: how do you fight back when someone refuses to respect your most basic boundaries? But when Samantha stepped into Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom, she never expected what would unfold next. And neither did the man who thought he could intimidate her. Drop a comment below if you think Samantha should have confronted him directly sooner, or if her cautious approach was the right choice. Samantha walks into Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom with her evidence carefully organized in a leather folder. Her hands are steady, but her heart pounds. The room hums with quiet tension, every whisper and shuffle amplified by the weight of what's about to happen. Across from her, Mr. Halverson sits with that same unnerving smile, acting as though he owns the entire courtroom. Judge Caprio looks over the case files, his gaze steady and commanding. "Ms. Ellis," he begins, his voice calm but firm, "please tell us what has brought you here today." Samantha takes a deep breath, letting the fear she's carried for weeks fuel her words. "Your Honor, this man has made it impossible for me to feel safe in my own home. He started with small requests, things that seemed harmless at first, but escalated to threats and intrusion. He climbed my fence. He left notes. He refused to respect boundaries that any reasonable person would accept." Mr. Halverson shifts in his seat, smirking slightly. "It's just a pool," he mutters, as if minimizing the entire ordeal. "She's overreacting. Everyone loves a pool." Samantha's voice hardens. "It's not about the pool. It's about my privacy, my safety, my life. I have the right to live without fear, even in my own backyard." Judge Caprio leans forward, his tone sharp. Do you understand, sir, that your actions have consequences? That a person has the right to enjoy their property without harassment? Yes, Your Honor, Mr. Halvorson replies, though there's a hint of defiance still in his voice. Samantha feels a wave of relief. She's speaking her truth, standing her ground. She lays out the evidence, the videos of him lurking, the notes, the police report. She recounts the fear that kept her awake at night, the anxiety that grew with every unwanted visit, the feeling that her home was no longer hers. The courtroom is silent. Even the bailiff seems absorbed in every word. Samantha asks herself a quiet question. How could someone be so blind to the fear they instill in others? Judge Caprio's gaze fixes on Mr. Halvorson. You may have thought your actions were harmless or playful, but this is a serious violation of another person's rights. How do you justify terrorizing a neighbor in her own home? Mr. Halvorson opens his mouth, stumbles, then mutters something about being lonely, about wanting companionship. The courtroom shifts uncomfortably. Caprio doesn't flinch. Loneliness does not give you the right to invade someone's privacy, to intimidate, or to make them fear for their safety. You will learn that every action has a consequence. Samantha feels tears prick her eyes, not from fear anymore, but from the validation of her courage. She looks at the judge, the man who has become a beacon of fairness in this surreal ordeal, and she whispers to herself, finally, someone understands. Rhetorical question. How many people suffer in silence, hoping someone will see the fear they can't voice? The tension in the courtroom peaks. Samantha's voice is clear, unwavering, recounting every chilling moment that led her here. And then, she delivers the words that carry her story beyond this room, words that will resonate with anyone who has ever felt powerless in their own life. Hit that subscribe button if you believe Samantha's bravery deserves recognition. But the most surprising moment was yet to come, when Judge Caprio's words would change everything, and leave both the victim and the courtroom utterly stunned. Judge Frank Caprio leans forward, his hands resting on the bench, and the courtroom falls completely silent. Every eye is on him. Even Mr. Halvorson, who had thought he could intimidate, now feels the weight of the moment pressing down. Ladies and gentlemen, Judge Caprio begins, his voice calm but commanding, we are here not just to hear about a swimming pool, not just to debate what is innocent or playful, but to understand something far greater, respect. Respect for others, respect for boundaries, and respect for what makes a home a sanctuary. He pauses, letting the words sink in. Ms. Ellis did nothing to provoke this behavior. She lived her life quietly, enjoying her home, her pool, her peace, and yet, her neighbor crossed the line repeatedly, ignoring every sign, every polite refusal, until fear became her constant companion. That is unacceptable, and it will not be ignored. The judge's eyes lock on Mr. Halvorson. Sir, let me ask you this. When you took it upon yourself to invade her privacy, when you left notes, climbed fences, and disregarded warnings, did you stop to consider the human being on the other side? Did you think about how it feels to live in constant anxiety, to fear for your own safety in your backyard? Mr. Halvorson shifts uncomfortably, unable to meet the judge's piercing gaze. His smirk is gone, replaced by something like recognition. Caprio continue. This courtroom does not exist to punish for punishment's sake. It exists to restore fairness, to teach accountability, and to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Ms. Ellis has shown courage beyond what many could muster. She documented, she spoke up, and she came here seeking justice. And that is exactly what she will receive. A hush fills the room. Caprio's words are not just about punishment. They are a mirror held up to every person who has ever ignored boundaries, thinking that desire excuses behavior. Let this case serve as a lesson. Fear has no place in a neighbor's backyard, and no home should ever feel like a trap. It is our duty as a community to ensure safety and respect for all. Samantha feels a lump in her throat. His words wash over her like a shield, removing the weight of fear she has carried for weeks. The room seems lighter, charged with a sense of rightness, as if the universe itself has tilted back into balance. Judge Caprio looks around the courtroom one last time. I hope that what you have learned today goes beyond this case. May it guide your actions, your decisions, and your understanding of what it truly means to be considerate, lawful, and humane. Rhetorical question. How often do people forget that small actions or obsessions can change someone's life forever? But even as the courtroom absorbed Judge Caprio's words, Samantha couldn't anticipate the final turn of events. One that would bring tears, redemption, and a story the entire neighborhood would remember for years. Like this video if you believe Judge Caprio's words can change lives, and hit that subscribe button to support more stories of courage and justice. The gavel hits, echoing through the courtroom like a final heartbeat. Samantha exhales slowly, the tension draining from her shoulders. Judge Caprio has spoken with a power that silences even the most stubborn. And now, the moment of resolution has arrived. Mr. Halvorson rises, his face pale, a mixture of embarrassment and disbelief. The judge's words have pierced through his arrogance, leaving him exposed. I understand, he mutters, though it sounds hollow even to him. I will respect her property. I promise. Samantha's friends and family, who have been quietly seated in the back, let out breaths they hadn't realized they were holding. Relief washes over her, mingled with tears she can no longer hold back. She realizes that courage isn't about not feeling fear. It's about standing firm even when fear is overwhelming. As she steps out of the courtroom later, Samantha notices something unexpected. Mr. Halvorson approaches cautiously, hands raised slightly in apology. I'm sorry for everything, he says genuinely, this time without smirk or arrogance. I was wrong. I didn't realize the fear I was causing. Samantha hesitates, the memories of weeks of anxiety still fresh, but instead of anger, she finds calm. Thank you, she says quietly. Apologies are a start, but boundaries must be respected, always. He nods, a weight lifted from his shoulders, and for the first time, the air between them is neutral. The threat has passed, and the lesson is clear. Fear cannot survive where respect exists. Word spreads quickly in Brookside Heights. Neighbors who had whispered about the tension now come forward to praise Samantha's bravery, sharing the story of a woman who refused to be intimidated, and a judge whose words reminded everyone of the importance of dignity. Her story goes viral online, a beacon for anyone who has ever felt unsafe in their own home. Samantha installs a few more security measures, not out of fear, but as reminders of the courage she showed. Each time she swims in her pool, the water glistens with a sense of reclaimed freedom. Her sanctuary is hers again, stronger than ever, a testament to resilience, justice, and hope. Rhetorical question. Isn't it amazing how standing up for yourself can inspire an entire community and even teach a lesson to someone who thought they were above the law? Like this video, if you're inspired by Samantha's courage, subscribe for more heartwarming stories of justice, hit the bell to get notified every time, and share this story to remind others that bravery, respect, and accountability always triumph. And as the sun sets over her backyard pool, Samantha smiles. Her home, her peace, and her life, finally hers again.